Here is the revised response. SCP-682, the hard-to-kill reptile, and Vhagar, the massive dragon from House of the Dragon, stood before Smaug, the magnificent dragon from Tolkien's lore. There's something behind you, SCP-682 said, its voice low and menacing. Smaug turned to see Toothless, the Night Fury dragon from How to Train Your Dragon, standing behind him. Hey, Smaug, Toothless said, his voice friendly. Smaug's eyes narrowed, and he began to back away, his massive body slowly moving towards SCP-682 and Vhagar. What the? Smaug said casually, his voice dripping with disdain. What the hell are you? Here is the revised response. SCP-682's gaze shifted to the Light Fury, Toothless's girlfriend, standing behind him. What's with someone behind her? SCP-682 asked. Toothless casually turned around, his eyes meeting the Light Fury's. It's just my wife. Vhagar's gaze narrowed, her eyes fixed on Toothless's back. What's with the spikes on your back? Toothless shrugged. It's just helping me stay amped up. Vhagar raised an eyebrow. But why so small? Toothless smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. But am I harmless? Smaug's voice cut through the conversation, his tone casual. No. Here is the revised response. Vhagar's eyes narrowed. What else you would do? Toothless's grin grew wider. I am powerful. SCP-682's voice was laced with amusement. But we are also powerful too. Toothless's eyes glinted with a hint of challenge. That's something from me. Vhagar took a step closer to Toothless, her massive body looming over him. Suddenly, Toothless's electric body sparked to life, and Vhagar was knocked out by a powerful electrocution. SCP-682's gaze never wavered from Toothless. He's just knocked out. SCP-682's eyes narrowed. What's with the strength? It's lame. Toothless's grin grew wider. But I also have a plasma breath. Smaug's voice was laced with skepticism. Just a plasma breath. Here is the revised response. Vhagar slowly rose from the ground, his black, darkened body seeming to absorb the light around him. His voice was low and menacing as he spoke. It's time for Plan B. As Vhagar spoke, his eyes suddenly glowed with a fierce, purple light. Toothless instinctively lowered his body, his eyes fixed warily on Vhagar. Hold on, SCP-682, Toothless said, why did you activate the glowing purple eyes of yours? Vhagar's voice was cold and detached. I am feeling like I have to activate my defense mode. Toothless's grin grew wider. Bring it on. Smaug's voice was casual, but laced with a hint of warning. Vhagar, this is not what are you going to do? Vhagar's voice was low and menacing. I have been sleeping for months. I haven't been active. Now it's time to show them. Toothless's eyes glinted with amusement. Oh, you think? Let's see. Vhagar's voice was cold and detached. Just me and you, Toothless. Toothless's grin grew wider. I am waiting for you. SCP-682 suddenly raised his green glowing tail high up in the air. Everyone, enough. Smaug's voice was confused. What? Why are you all trying to be offensive? Toothless's voice was curious. Good question. Suddenly, a green light emitted from the tail of SCP-682. SCP-682's voice was firm. That's a warning sign. Here is the revised response. Vhagar's voice was calm, but laced with amusement. No, Smaug, you just suddenly created a sleeping light from your tail. Toothless's eyes began to droop, his voice slurred. You all are worst. As he spoke, his body slowly slumped. Here is the revised response. Vhagar's voice was calm, but laced with amusement. No, Smaug, you just suddenly created a sleeping light from your tail. Toothless's eyes began to droop, his voice slurred. You all are worst. As he spoke, his body slowly slumped to the ground, fast asleep. The group casually stared at the sleeping Toothless, their faces expressionless. SCP-682's voice was practical. Maybe we should get out before something bad happens to us. Vhagar's voice was in agreement. Agreed. But before they could move, Smaug and Vhagar suddenly started shouting at each other. Smaug's voice was angry. You think you can just? Vhagar's voice was equally furious. I'll have you know. SCP-682's voice cut through the argument, firm and commanding. Enough, both of you. Here is the revised response. Toothless's voice was barely audible, his words slurred in his sleep. Please, just put me out of my misery. SCP-682's voice was firm, cutting through the chaos. Enough, both of you. Let's go and let's escape from here. The screen quickly shifted to SCP-682 leading Smaug and Vhagar inside a gigantic hangar with functional interiors. SCP-682 entered first, followed by Smaug and Vhagar. As they entered the room, they suddenly started to heavily yawn, their eyes drooping. One by one, they fell asleep, their massive bodies crashing to the ground. The hangar grew quiet, the only sound the soft rustling of the sleeping dragons. The scene faded to black, marking the end of the story.